Chosen one, right now, you are being called to stop everything you are doing. The moment you are experiencing is not just a coincidence, this is a divine interruption. Heaven has specifically interrupted your routine, and the timing of this message could not be more critical. This is not a random moment, but one that has been divinely orchestrated for you to listen, to pause, and to pay attention. You may be tempted to continue with the distractions of your day, to brush this moment aside as just another passing thought. But chosen one, I urge you to listen closely. This is a call of divine urgency. This moment has been set before you because there is something you have been tolerating, something you've allowed to quietly chip away at your peace, health, and spiritual well-being. It may have started small, something you could easily overlook or dismiss, but now it has grown into something that demands your attention. This is not about fear, nor is it about condemnation. It is about exposing the truth that you need to recognize right now, a truth that will bring healing, clarity, and freedom. God is speaking directly to you in this moment, and the time to act is now. Chosen one, there is a weight that you have carried for far too long, one that has remained unseen by most, but felt deeply within you. This weight is not visible to the naked eye, but it is real. It is an emotional and spiritual burden that has quietly been breaking you down. You have learned to survive under this weight, to function as though everything is fine, but survival was never God's plan for you. What you have been calling coping is in fact a slow destruction of your peace, your health, and your spirit. For years, you have carried this burden in silence, never truly addressing it, and it has taken a toll on you in ways you may not have fully realized. You have become accustomed to living with this weight as if it is part of who you are. You have accepted it as a normal part of life, believing that it is simply something you must endure. And while enduring is sometimes necessary, God's purpose for you has always been so much greater than mere survival. He did not create you to simply cope with life's struggles. He created you to thrive, to live fully in His divine purpose, and to experience the fullness of joy, peace, and strength that comes from being aligned with His will. The emotional weight you carry is not something that can be ignored or brushed aside. It is the toll of constantly bearing burdens of past hurts, unhealed wounds, broken relationships, unspoken pain, and unresolved grief. You have spent so much of your life suppressing your emotions, trying to keep up appearances, and pretending that everything is okay. You've put on a brave face, carried on with your responsibilities, and tried to make do without ever fully addressing the things that have been weighing on your heart. But chosen one, this weight is slowly destroying you. It is quietly eroding your sense of peace, your vitality, and your spirit. You may have been able to push through for a while, convincing yourself that you are strong enough to handle it, that you can bear it on your own. But the truth is, this emotional weight was never meant to be carried alone. It was never meant to be something you simply endure, and it is certainly not God's will for you to remain trapped under its heavy burden. There is also a spiritual pressure you've been living under, one that you may not even have been fully aware of. As someone who has a heart for serving, you have probably found yourself constantly giving to others, pouring out your energy, time, and resources without ever allowing yourself the rest and refilling you need. You've given your love, your compassion, your strength, and your heart without ever replenishing your own reserves. You have been so focused on the needs of others, on the responsibilities you've taken on, that you have neglected to care for your own spirit. This has created an imbalance, a spiritual strain that has left you feeling drained, empty, and disconnected from the very wellspring of life that should be flowing through you. In the midst of all of this, you may have found yourself believing in something that is not true, the lie that endurance without restoration is a form of strength. You have come to think that your ability to keep going despite exhaustion, despite emotional and spiritual depletion, is a virtue, a sign of your resilience and your commitment. You may have believed that the more you endure, the more faithful you are. But chosen one, endurance without restoration is not strength. It is a recipe for burnout, for weariness, and for spiritual collapse. God did not create you to simply endure the burdens of life without ever being restored. He created you to experience peace, joy, and healing, and to be a vessel of His love and strength in the world. You have been taught by the world that the ability to endure to push through pain and exhaustion is a sign of strength, but God's definition of strength is different. True strength is found in rest and renewal, and in the willingness to acknowledge your need for Him. When you choose to face your emotional and spiritual burdens honestly, when you allow yourself to release what you have been carrying, you create space for God's healing and restoration. This is where true strength lies, not in enduring without restoration, but in trusting God to heal and restore you in the midst of your struggles. The silent burden you carry has not only affected your emotional and spiritual well being, but it has also begun to take its toll on your physical health. The body is intimately connected with the emotions and spirit, and when you carry unaddressed emotional pain for long periods of time, it begins to manifest in physical ways. Chronic stress, anxiety, and unresolved pain can lead to physical ailments from headaches to fatigue to more serious conditions. Your body has been signaling to you that something is wrong, that the weight you carry is too much for you to bear alone. And yet you have continued to press on, ignoring the signs and pushing through the pain. But chosen one, God is calling you to release this burden. He is calling you to surrender the weight you've been carrying and to allow Him to heal the wounds that have been quietly eating away at you. This is not a call to weakness, but a call to strength. True strength is not found in enduring what was never meant to be carried, but in recognizing when you need help and turning to God for restoration. The emotional and spiritual burdens you've been carrying were never intended to define you. They were never meant to be a permanent part of your life. God wants to heal your heart, restore your spirit, and refresh your body so that you can live fully and abundantly. But in order for that to happen, you must first release the silent burdens that have been dragging you down. This is a moment of divine intervention, chosen one. Heaven is stepping in to reveal the truth to you that you no longer have to carry these burdens. You do not have to continue living under the emotional and spiritual pressure that has been wearing you down. God is offering you rest, healing, and renewal, but you must be willing to release what you have been holding on to for so long. The weight you've carried in silence has already taken a toll on your peace, your health, and your joy. It is time for you to allow God to step in and take that burden from you. As you release these burdens, you will begin to experience a deep sense of freedom and peace. Your heart will be restored, your spirit will be renewed, and your body will find rest. You will no longer be bound by the weight of survival. You will be free to live fully in the divine purpose that God has for you. Let go of the silent burden, chosen one, and trust that God is here to heal, restore, and renew you. The weight you've carried for so long has no place in the life that God has planned for you. It's time to let go and step into the fullness of His divine peace and purpose. Chosen one, for far too long, you have been silently tolerating pressures, burdens, and stresses that were never meant to be a part of your life. These things have slowly invaded your heart, mind, and spirit, and while they may not have been visible to others, they have quietly drained your peace, your joy, and your strength. You may not even have realized the full extent of what you've been tolerating because it has crept into your life gradually until it has become a part of your routine. But now heaven is calling you to recognize the harm it has caused, to see the erosion of your inner peace that has been happening beneath the surface, and to stop tolerating what should never have been tolerated in the first place. For so long, you've managed to carry on despite the weight pressing down on you. You've learned to adapt, to function, and to keep moving forward despite the emotional strain, the unspoken pain, and the spiritual exhaustion. You've told yourself that this is just part of life, that you must endure these things because that's what it means to be strong. But chosen one, enduring constant pressure without releasing it is not strength. It is a slow form of destruction. It doesn't take immediate shape, but over time it seeps into your soul, affecting your body, your spirit, and your relationships. You have been living under the burden of unacknowledged strain, and it is beginning to show in subtle ways, ways that only you can feel, but have been too afraid to confront. This pressure you've been tolerating is not just external, it is emotional, spiritual, and mental. The stress you carry from trying to be everything for everyone, the constant need to please others, and the weight of unspoken grief, unresolved conflicts, and neglected emotional needs have been weighing you down. You've lived for so long under the pressure of these unaddressed burdens, thinking that you could continue on indefinitely, that your resilience would carry you through. But now heaven is intervening. This intervention is not a condemnation. It is a divine act of mercy meant to bring you back to peace, to help you reclaim the life you were meant to live. The silent erosion that has been happening inside of you is not something others may notice. On the surface, everything may seem fine. You've become adept at hiding the internal struggle, putting on a brave face, and continuing as if everything is okay. But beneath that surface, there is an erosion happening. Your joy, your peace, and your energy have been drained over time. You may have tolerated it for so long that it's become almost second nature to you, like a background noise that you've learned to ignore. But God is calling you to open your eyes to see the damage that's been done and to stop tolerating what is quietly destroying you. It's easy to ignore the little things, the subtle pressures that seem like they're part of life. After all, everyone has their struggles, and we all face pressure in one form or another. But what you have been tolerating, chosen one, is not just the normal ebb and flow of life. It is a slow, steady drain of your energy, your purpose, and your connection to the divine. Every time you suppress your true feelings, every time you put someone else's needs above your own, every time you tolerate situations that make you feel small, exhausted, or depleted, you are allowing this silent erosion to continue. What seemed insignificant at first has now accumulated, leaving you spiritually and emotionally depleted. God is calling you to recognize this, to see it for what it truly is, and to take action. This is not about blame or guilt. This is about restoration. God has been with you throughout this process, watching over you, guiding you, and now He is stepping in to bring healing. But before that can happen, you must first acknowledge the harm that has been done. You must recognize the toll that tolerating these burdens has taken on you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. God does not want you to carry these burdens any longer. They were never meant to be yours to bear. When we tolerate unhealthy situations, unhealed wounds, or toxic environments, we become numb to the damage they cause. But God's mercy comes in to open our eyes, to reveal the truth that we have been allowing things to drain us in ways we didn't fully understand. The moment of intervention is not just a warning, but a call to action. It's an invitation to release the burdens that you've been tolerating for too long and allow God to restore your joy, peace, and purpose. This is the moment where you are invited to stop enduring what you were never meant to carry and to embrace the fullness of life that God has for you. This moment of clarity is not random, chosen one. It is a divine calling for you to recognize that what you've been tolerating has reached its breaking point. The gradual loss of joy, the constant depletion, and the emotional and spiritual exhaustion have finally caught up to you. And now heaven is stepping in to intervene, not as a punishment, but as a merciful act to protect what God has placed inside of you. You are not meant to continue on this path of slow destruction. You are meant for restoration, for renewal, and for the fullness of life that God has prepared for you. This is the time for you to let go of the things that you've been tolerating. It's time to release the emotional baggage, the toxic patterns, and the relationships that drain you. It's time to stop tolerating the pressures that have been stealing your peace and joy. God is offering you freedom from these burdens, but first, you must choose to release them. This release is not an act of weakness, but an act of strength and surrender. You are choosing to align your life with God's will, to let go of what has been holding you back, and to make space for His restoration. Restoration is not an instantaneous event. It is a process, one that requires you to let go of the things that have been draining you and allow God to heal the wounds you've been carrying. It requires patience and trust in the process. But as you begin to release what you've been tolerating, you will start to feel the weight lift. You will begin to feel your joy and peace return, and with that, your energy and clarity will follow. The silent erosion that has taken place will start to reverse, and in its place, you will find a deeper connection to God and to the life He has planned for you. Chosen one, this is a pivotal moment in your life. It is a moment of divine intervention, a moment of healing and restoration. God is calling you to stop tolerating what has been draining you, to recognize the silent erosion that has been taking place, and to release those burdens so that He can restore you to the fullness of your divine purpose. You are not alone in this journey. God is with you every step of the way, and His mercy will guide you toward healing, freedom, and a renewed sense of joy. The time has come for you to let go, to stop tolerating what you should not bear, and to embrace the fullness of life that God has prepared for you. Chosen one, the moment you are in right now is not by accident. Heaven has seen the silent suffering you've endured, the burdens you've carried for far too long. And now God is stepping in. This intervention is not one of judgment, but of mercy, a divine rescue, a call to release what has been harming you, and an invitation to restore what has been quietly broken. God's mercy often works in ways we do not understand, and sometimes it shows up as an interruption to our lives, disrupting our routine, catching us off guard, and calling us to stop what we are doing and pay attention. The moment you are in is such an interruption. It's not a random event. It's a divine moment where God is intervening before more damage is done, before your endurance reaches a breaking point that could lead to deeper destruction. His mercy is stepping in at just the right time, offering you the opportunity to shift direction, to let go, and to begin the process of healing. You may not have fully realized how far you've pushed yourself, how much you've tolerated, or how deeply the strain has affected you. When we are living under the pressure of unspoken pain, constant emotional exhaustion, or spiritual depletion, we often go into survival mode. We push forward, telling ourselves that we must keep going, that we have no choice but to endure. And for a while we do. But what we fail to see is the quiet erosion happening inside of us, the slow, unnoticed breaking down of our peace, joy, and strength. This is the moment when God is stepping in to prevent further damage. His mercy is here to protect you, to stop you from reaching the point of no return, and to bring you to a place of divine restoration. This intervention is not a punishment for your past actions, nor is it a sign of God's disapproval. It is a manifestation of His love and mercy for you. He sees the struggle you've endured in silence, the burdens you've been carrying that have been too much for you to handle alone. He sees how you've put others' needs before your own, how you've been giving without replenishing yourself, and how you've sacrificed your peace for the sake of others. But God is stepping in now to remind you that you are not meant to bear these burdens alone. He is inviting you to let go, to release what you were never meant to carry, and to trust that He will carry you through this. In this moment of divine intervention, heaven is offering you a chance to shift direction, to change course before the pressure becomes unbearable. You have reached a critical point, chosen one, and God is intervening just in time. This is not a coincidence. It is a mercy-driven moment, a divine call to free you from the burden of silent suffering and to restore you to a place of peace, joy, and wholeness. God does not want you to keep going down the path of emotional depletion or spiritual burnout. He wants to heal you, to restore what has been broken, and to help you rediscover the fullness of life that you were always meant to live. The lie that endurance without restoration is strength has kept you in a cycle of constant struggle. You have believed that your ability to keep going despite exhaustion is a sign of virtue, but now God is showing you that true strength comes from allowing yourself to rest, to be restored, and to let go of what is no longer serving you. The silent burden you've carried has made you resilient, yes, but it has also kept you stuck in a place of depletion. Now God is intervening to show you that strength does not come from enduring without rest, but from being able to recognize when you need healing and allowing yourself to receive it. This intervention is also a divine rescue mission. Heaven has seen your suffering, chosen one, and God is stepping in to protect you from the further harm of carrying these burdens alone. He has seen the weight you've been carrying, the emotional strain, and the spiritual exhaustion. And now He is offering His mercy to release you from this cycle. This moment of intervention is not just about ending the pain you've been enduring, but about leading you to a place where you can finally rest and be restored. God sees the depths of your heart, and He knows what you need even when you don't have the strength to ask for it. The intervention of mercy is not a sign of weakness, but of divine love. God is not here to condemn you, but to offer you a way out of the cycle of silent suffering. He is reminding you that you do not have to endure this alone, and you do not have to carry this weight any longer. This is the moment when God steps in to remind you of His power, His grace, and His willingness to help you. This moment is a gift, a chance for you to stop to rest and to begin the process of healing. In the Bible, we see many examples of God's mercy stepping in at just the right time. One such moment was when God intervened in the life of the prophet Elijah. Elijah had just witnessed a great victory, but after that he became deeply discouraged and weary. He fled into the wilderness, overwhelmed by fear and exhaustion, convinced that his mission was over. But God did not leave him there. Instead, he sent an angel to minister to Elijah to provide food, water, and rest. In that moment, God's mercy stepped in to restore Elijah's strength so that he could continue on the journey that lay ahead. This is the same mercy that God is extending to you, chosen one. He is not abandoning you in your exhaustion. He is intervening to restore you and guide you to the next step in your journey. This is the beauty of divine mercy. It steps in when we least expect it, when we are at our breaking point, and it offers us the grace and strength to continue. God is calling you to stop what you are doing, to recognize the weight you have been carrying, and to allow His mercy to transform your life. This is not a time to ignore your need for healing. It is a time to embrace it. The intervention you are experiencing is God's way of showing you that He is here, ready to lift the burdens that have been weighing you down and to restore you to the fullness of life He intended for you. Chosen one, this divine intervention is a gift. It is a moment to reset, to release, and to step into a new season of restoration and renewal. God is offering you the grace to heal, the strength to move forward, and the peace to rest in His presence. This is your moment of rescue, your moment of divine mercy, and it is time to embrace it fully. Allow God to step in to carry you through and to bring you to a place of peace and restoration. The intervention has begun, and with it comes the healing you have long needed. Chosen one, as you have journeyed through life, you have undoubtedly carried burdens and faced challenges that have shaped you into who you are today. But along the way, you have also collected patterns, habits, and responsibilities that were never meant for you to bear alone. These patterns, often formed out of necessity or a desire to protect yourself and others, have become a part of your daily life. They have subtly woven themselves into the fabric of who you are, and for a long time you may not have even realized how much they have been weighing you down, draining your peace and pulling you further from the divine alignment God has planned for you. The time has come, chosen one, for a significant internal shift. You have been called not just to release external burdens, but to make a deeper change within, to shift the way you have been living, thinking, and responding to the world. There is something you have been holding on to, a pattern or a responsibility that has kept you stuck in a cycle of emotional exhaustion, spiritual depletion, and unrelenting pressure. This internal shift is not merely a change in circumstances or external actions. It is a transformation of your heart, your mind, and your spirit. God is inviting you to partner with Him in this healing process. The burden you have been carrying is not one that was ever meant to be yours alone, and now heaven is calling you to let go of those heavy patterns that have been holding you back. These patterns could be rooted in perfectionism, fear, guilt, or even a misguided sense of duty. Perhaps you have been carrying responsibilities that were not yours to bear, thinking that your worth depended on constantly giving and serving, never allowing yourself to rest or to be replenished. These patterns, while seemingly noble, have kept you from living fully in alignment with your divine purpose. The first part of this internal shift is recognizing the patterns that need to be released. You have lived so long under the weight of these habits and responsibilities that you may not even notice how much they've affected you. The weight of constantly giving without taking time for yourself, the pressure to meet others' expectations, the need to prove your worth through service. These things have been slowly chipping away at your energy, your joy, and your spiritual peace. And while you may have thought that enduring these burdens was a sign of strength, God is calling you to see the truth. Endurance without restoration is not strength, it is depletion. In this moment, chosen one, it is time for you to allow yourself to recognize what has been weighing you down. These patterns that you've been carrying have created an internal dissonance. You've been living out of alignment with your true self and divine purpose. The call to release these toxic patterns is not just for your emotional healing, but also for your spiritual and physical well being. When we continue to carry what we were never meant to bear, it wears on us not just in our hearts, but in our bodies as well. Emotional exhaustion eventually becomes physical exhaustion. The weight of unaddressed pain and unmet needs manifests as tension, anxiety, and even illness. God is calling you to break free from these old patterns. This is not a call to quit serving or loving others, but a call to stop doing it at the cost of your own well being. You are being invited to shift from a place of striving and overfunctioning to a place of alignment and partnership with God. You are not meant to carry these burdens alone. It is time to partner with God in the healing process, trusting that He is the one who strengthens you, restores you, and gives you the energy to serve in a way that aligns with His purpose for your life. The second part of this shift is learning to release the responsibilities you have taken on that are not yours. For so long, you may have believed that your worth was tied to your ability to take care of everyone and everything around you. Perhaps you've shouldered responsibilities that were meant for others, believing that you were the only one capable of carrying them. But God is calling you to let go of these false burdens. You are not meant to carry the weight of other people's expectations, dreams, or emotional needs. God has equipped you with a unique purpose, and that purpose is not about being all things to all people, but about living in the fullness of the calling He has given you. Recognizing what you were never meant to carry is a vital part of this internal shift. It requires humility and self-awareness to let go of the things you've held on to out of guilt or a false sense of duty. But when you release these unnecessary burdens, you create space for God to do His work in you. You will find that when you let go of what isn't yours, you are freed to step into the purpose God has uniquely prepared for you. This is not about being selfish. It is about being aligned with God's will and trusting that He will provide for the needs of others through His divine plan. The third part of this internal shift is learning to prioritize your own healing and restoration. For so long, you may have focused on the needs of others, on the demands of your responsibilities, on the expectations of the world while neglecting your own well-being. But chosen one, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your soul needs rest, renewal, and restoration. God does not call you to sacrifice yourself for others in a way that leads to exhaustion and burnout. The true calling of the chosen one is not to give until you are depleted, but to live in partnership with God, allowing Him to fill you, restore you, and equip you for the journey ahead. This shift requires you to make space for rest and healing. It may be uncomfortable at first, especially if you have spent so much of your life giving without receiving, but rest is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of trust. It is trusting that God is in control, that He is the one who sustains you, and that He has already provided for the work He has called you to do. Rest is essential for spiritual growth. Without rest, you will continue to live from a place of depletion, unable to give your best to yourself, your loved ones, or the divine calling on your life. As you embrace this internal shift, chosen one, you will find that you are no longer running on empty. You will begin to experience the restoration you have long needed. Your soul will be renewed, your body will find rest, and your spirit will become aligned with God's purpose for you. This internal shift will allow you to live with more clarity, peace, and joy. It will empower you to serve from a place of fullness, not exhaustion, and to fulfill the divine purpose that God has placed within you. This is the divine invitation that God is offering you to release what has been holding you back, to stop carrying what was never meant to be yours, and to step into a new season of alignment and healing. The work you've done in the past has brought you this far, but now is the time for something new. A time to shift from survival to thriving, from depletion to restoration. God is calling you to step into the fullness of your divine purpose, and that fullness comes with the release of old patterns, the letting go of unnecessary burdens, and the partnership with God in the healing process. Chosen one, this is the time for internal transformation. Trust that God is with you, guiding you and walking with you as you make these shifts. Your healing and restoration are not only possible, but promised. Embrace the shift and allow God to lead you into a new season of peace, strength, and divine alignment. Chosen one, You have always been a person of remarkable resilience. Your ability to endure to face life's challenges without giving up is a testament to your strength and determination. But as you have journeyed through life, you may have found yourself reaching a point where your endurance is no longer enough. You may have pushed yourself through countless struggles, believing that your capacity to endure would eventually bring you the peace, the answers, and the fulfillment you sought. Yet as time has passed, you've come to realize that endurance alone cannot sustain you indefinitely. There comes a time when you need more than just the strength to keep going, you need restoration. This realization is not a sign of weakness, but of divine wisdom. Endurance is a powerful quality, chosen one. It allows you to persevere through hardships, to push forward, even when the path is steep and uncertain. But endurance without restoration leads to depletion, not growth. You may have been able to keep going for a while, carrying the weight of emotional, spiritual, and physical strain. But what you are experiencing now is the truth that you cannot keep running on empty. Your spirit, your heart, and even your body are crying out for the renewal they so desperately need. God designed you to endure, yes, but He also designed you to be restored. Restoration is a vital part of your spiritual, emotional, and physical health. It's not about simply surviving the storms of life or pushing through to the next challenge. It's about allowing yourself the space to heal, to restore, and to grow from the lessons you've learned. If you continue to endure without allowing yourself the restoration you need, you will find yourself running on fumes, empty, exhausted, and unable to fully step into the purpose God has for you. The truth is, chosen one, you've been in survival mode for too long. You've pushed through obstacles, endured trials, and carried burdens that were never meant for you to bear alone. While your endurance has allowed you to overcome many challenges, it has also left you depleted. Your resilience has been admirable, but there comes a time when even the strongest need to rest and be restored. God never intended for you to carry the weight of life's struggles indefinitely. His plan for you is not one of endless endurance, but one of restoration, peace, and alignment with your divine purpose. Think of the story of Elijah in the Bible. After a mighty victory on Mount Carmel, where he confronted the prophets of Baal and witnessed God's miraculous intervention, Elijah fled in fear for his life when Jezebel threatened him. He was physically exhausted, emotionally drained, and spiritually overwhelmed. In that moment of despair, Elijah cried out to God, wishing for his life to end. But instead of condemning him for his fear and weariness, God showed mercy. God sent an angel to Elijah to provide food, water, and rest, telling him to get up and eat, for the journey ahead would be long. God did not reprimand Elijah for needing rest. He provided the restoration Elijah desperately needed in order to continue the journey. Just as God showed mercy to Elijah, He is offering you the same grace today. You have endured much, but now it is time for restoration. Endurance without restoration is like running a race without ever stopping for water, food, or rest. You may push through for a time, but eventually you will reach the point of exhaustion. This is not a sign of failure, but a natural consequence of ignoring the need for rest and healing. You are not meant to push yourself endlessly without allowing yourself to be refueled and restored. The work God has for you requires more than endurance. It requires strength that comes from rest, renewal, and alignment with His will. So, chosen one, it is time to allow yourself the restoration you need. It is time to stop pushing yourself to the brink of exhaustion, believing that endurance alone will carry you through. God is inviting you into a season of renewal, a season where you can lay down your burdens, rest, and allow Him to restore you. Restoration is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of divine wisdom and alignment with God's perfect plan for your life. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and God wants to fill you up so that you can continue to serve, love, and fulfill your divine purpose with strength, clarity, and peace. To experience true restoration, you must allow yourself to pause. It's easy to feel guilty when you slow down or take time for yourself, especially when the world encourages constant movement, hustle, and production. But chosen one, true restoration comes when you stop and allow God to renew your heart, mind, and spirit. This restoration is not just about rest in the physical sense, it's about aligning yourself with the rhythms of God's will for your life. It's about allowing God to work in you to heal the wounds that have been left untreated, and to restore the joy and peace that have been stolen by the demands of life. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus invites us to come to him for rest. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This is not just a promise of physical rest, but a promise of spiritual renewal. Jesus calls us to lay down our burdens, to release the pressures we carry, and to trust him for the restoration of our souls. God does not call us to a life of endless endurance without respite. He calls us to a life of partnership with him, where we receive his strength, his peace, and his rest in the midst of life's challenges. You've been strong for so long, chosen one, but now it's time to rest. Rest is not laziness, it is a necessary part of the process of restoration. In the quiet and the stillness, you allow God to do the work in you that you cannot do for yourself. You allow him to restore your mind, heal your spirit, and renew your strength. And it is from this place of restored strength that you will move forward with clarity, purpose, and power. God's plan for your life is not just about surviving, it's about thriving, about walking in the fullness of the calling he has placed on your life. So, chosen one, as you enter this season of restoration, remember that God is calling you to release the burdens you have been carrying, to stop enduring without rest, and to allow yourself the space to heal. True restoration requires trust. Trust that God knows exactly what you need. Trust that he will restore what has been lost, and trust that his plan for you is greater than anything you could have imagined. Your strength has been admirable, but it is time for you to allow God to restore you, to replenish your soul, and to equip you with the strength you need for the next phase of your journey. Restoration is not an interruption to your life's work. It is an integral part of it. Chosen one, you are not defined by what you endure, but by how you allow God to restore and strengthen you. In this season, trust in his promise to renew you and allow him to fill you with the peace and power you need to continue your divine journey. Endurance without restoration is not your calling. Your calling is to be restored, refueled, and to walk forward in the fullness of God's purpose for your life. Chosen one, for much of your life, you have carried a heart full of loyalty, responsibility, and a genuine desire to serve others. Your commitment to those around you has been unwavering, and your dedication has often meant sacrificing your own well-being for the sake of others. Whether it's in your relationships, your work, or your ministry, you have always been willing to give sometimes at the expense of your own health, joy, and peace. You have believed that to serve others fully, you must overextend yourself, pouring out your energy without pause, always putting others first. But in doing so, you have been paying a price, one that is now catching up to you in ways that cannot be ignored. The cost of overextension is something that many people do not realize until it is too late. At first, the sacrifices may seem small, the missed moments of rest, the skipped meals, the constant running to meet the needs of others. It feels noble, even virtuous, to put others first, to give without expecting anything in return. But over time, these small sacrifices accumulate, and what once felt like an act of love becomes an act of self-neglect. When you give and give without taking time to care for yourself, you begin to deplete your reserves. Your energy, your health, and your peace begin to fade. You may not realize it immediately, but this overextension has a hidden cost, one that you have been paying silently, but one that is now becoming impossible to ignore. In your desire to be loyal, to serve with a full heart, and to live up to the expectations others have placed on you, you have lost sight of something important. You are not meant to give at the expense of your own well-being. God has designed you to be a vessel of love, peace, and strength, but he has also created you to experience joy, peace, and restoration. If you continue to pour yourself out without taking time to refill, you will eventually run dry. Your body, mind, and spirit are not meant to carry the constant weight of others' needs without rest. Over time, the strain begins to show. You may feel physically exhausted, mentally drained, and spiritually depleted. The joy that once fueled your service may have begun to fade, leaving you with a sense of emptiness or burnout. The act of overextending yourself is not inherently wrong. Your heart is pure, and your desire to serve others is born from a place of love. But there is a danger in thinking that your worth is tied to how much you give or how much you do for others. The world has taught us that sacrifice equals holiness, that giving everything we have, even to the point of exhaustion, is a sign of spiritual maturity. But this is a lie. God does not call us to give until we have nothing left to give. True sacrifice is not about erasing yourself in the service of others. It is about offering what you have in alignment with God's purpose for your life. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is recognize when you need rest, when you need to step back, and when you need to let go of what you've been carrying. There is a subtle but dangerous myth that sacrifice equals holiness. Many people, especially those who are deeply faithful, can fall into the trap of thinking that the more they give, the more righteous they are. But this mindset leads to burnout and spiritual exhaustion. God does not want you to burn yourself out in the name of duty. He calls you to serve with a full heart, but He also calls you to rest, to restore, and to prioritize your own well-being. Your worth is not measured by how much you give to others, but by your alignment with God's will and purpose for your life. When you give, it should come from a place of abundance, not depletion. You cannot continue to pour from an empty vessel. You may have grown up believing that loyalty and responsibility meant giving all of yourself, but chosen one, it's time to recognize that overextension is not a sign of holiness. It is a sign of imbalance. God does not call you to self-erasure. He calls you to love others from a place of wholeness, peace, and divine purpose. If you are constantly overextending yourself, you are not living in alignment with His plan for you. You are living out of a sense of obligation, fear, or a desire to prove your worth, but this is not the kind of life God has called you to. He has created you to be a light to others, but that light must be fueled by your own connection to Him. Without that connection, without moments of rest and restoration, your light will begin to dim. It is time to acknowledge that you have limits. You are not invincible, chosen one. You are human, and you have been created with a need for rest, renewal, and balance. Recognizing your limits does not make you weak or less devoted, it makes you wise. The most powerful people are not those who overextend themselves without care. They are those who recognize their need for rest and prioritize their own healing. By acknowledging your limits, you are allowing God to step in and refill you, to restore what has been depleted, and to strengthen you for the work He has called you to. This is the kind of strength that comes from alignment with God's will, not from sheer willpower. You may have felt guilty for taking breaks, for setting boundaries, or for saying no to others' requests. You may have believed that to love others, you must constantly give, constantly serve, constantly sacrifice. But this mindset has led you to a place of depletion, chosen one. It's time to recognize that you are worthy of care, rest, and renewal. You do not have to burn yourself out to be valuable to God. He has called you to be a vessel of love, not a martyr who sacrifices everything for the sake of others. God is calling you to take a step back, to recognize where you've been overextending yourself, and to begin to honor your own needs. This is not about abandoning your responsibilities or refusing to serve. It is about finding balance. It is about loving yourself enough to take the time to rest, to recharge, and to align yourself with God's rhythms for your life. When you do this, you will be able to serve others from a place of abundance, not exhaustion. You will be able to give freely without feeling like you are running on empty. And in doing so, you will find that your service becomes more effective, more loving, and more aligned with God's true purpose for your life. The cost of overextension is great, chosen one. It steals your peace, your joy, and your energy. It leads to burnout, emotional exhaustion, and physical depletion. But God is offering you a new way. He is calling you to recognize your limits, to honor your own needs, and to serve others from a place of restoration. This is the path to true peace, true strength, and true holiness. When you let go of the need to overextend yourself, you will find that you are able to live in the fullness of God's plan for you. You will find that serving others is not about giving until you have nothing left, but about giving from the abundance of the life God has restored in you. Chosen one, in the busyness of life, in the constant demands of work, family relationships, and responsibilities, it can be easy to forget one essential truth. Rest is not a luxury, it is a necessity. For so long, you have pushed yourself to the limit, believing that rest is something that comes only after all the work is done, after all the responsibilities have been met. But now God is calling you to stop, to pause, and to recognize that rest is not just an option. It is a divine gift, and it is essential for your spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. You've carried the weight of obligations, commitments, and duties for so long, trying to meet everyone's needs, striving to fulfill every expectation placed upon you, and putting yourself last in the process. But chosen one, this pattern is not sustainable. God never intended for you to carry the burden of constant action without taking time to rest and restore. Rest is not a sign of weakness, nor is it something that should make you feel guilty. It is, in fact, an act of trust in God, a way of acknowledging that you are not the source of your own strength. Rest allows you to surrender to God's will, to trust in His provision, and to step into alignment with His rhythms for your life. For too long, you have sacrificed your peace for the sake of others. You've pushed yourself beyond your limits, thinking that the more you give, the more you serve, the more you are needed, the more valuable you become. But God is calling you to a new way of living, a way where you do not sacrifice your well-being for the sake of others, but where you allow yourself to receive the rest and renewal you need to serve from a place of fullness and peace. You are worthy of this rest, chosen one. You are worthy of healing, of taking time to restore your body, your mind, and your soul. The truth is, you cannot continue to give from an empty cup. If you keep pouring yourself out without replenishing, you will eventually run dry. You will find yourself emotionally drained, spiritually depleted, and physically exhausted. This is not God's plan for you. He desires for you to live in a rhythm of rest and work a balance that allows you to serve and give, but also to rest and receive. In the Bible, God commands rest not as a suggestion, but as a necessary part of life. In the creation story, He set the example by resting on the seventh day, not because He needed to, but because He knew that rest was vital. He established a pattern for us to follow, a rhythm of work and rest that reflects the divine flow of life. When you neglect rest, you begin to operate out of your own strength instead of relying on God's power and grace. You start to feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, believing that you are the one responsible for every outcome, every need, and every situation. This is where stress and burnout begin. But when you embrace rest as a gift from God, you enter into His divine rhythm, allowing Him to renew your strength, give you clarity, and restore your peace. In Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." These words are not just about physical rest, they are about the restoration of your soul. Jesus invites you to rest not just from the tasks of life, but from the internal struggles, the emotional burdens, and the spiritual exhaustion that weigh you down. When you take His yoke upon you, you stop striving and pushing against the current of life, and instead you align yourself with His divine purpose. His rest is one that restores your soul, gives you peace, and allows you to move forward with renewed strength. Choosing rest is also about releasing control. For so long, you may have believed that you are the one who has to manage everything: your work, your family, your finances, your emotions, and your relationships. But God is calling you to release the need to control every detail of your life. True rest comes when you let go of the idea that you have to manage everything on your own and trust that God is in control. The pressure you feel comes from the belief that you are solely responsible for the outcomes of every situation, but God is reminding you that He is the one who holds the world in His hands. When you rest, you are surrendering that control to Him, trusting that He will take care of the details and that you don't have to carry the weight of everything by yourself. When you make the decision to rest, you align yourself with God's rhythm for your life. This rhythm is one of balance, a balance of work and rest, action and reflection, service and self-care. God is not calling you to be busy all the time. He is calling you to a life of peace and purpose where you move through each day with a sense of ease and flow, knowing that you are in alignment with His will. When you rest, you create space for God to move in your life. You give Him the opportunity to fill you, renew you, and guide you. Rest becomes an act of faith where you trust that God is working on your behalf, even when you are not actively striving. The physical act of rest is also a spiritual practice. When you rest, you create sacred space to connect with God, to listen for His voice, and to receive His guidance. You allow yourself to be still, to breathe deeply, and to surrender to His presence. In this stillness, you find clarity. In this rest, you find peace. In this alignment, you find purpose. Chosen one, you are not meant to live a life of constant hustle and bustle. God has designed you to live in harmony with His divine rhythms. When you embrace rest as a necessary part of your life, you align yourself with the natural flow of His plan. Rest is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of trust and surrender. It is in rest that you find your strength, your clarity, and your peace. As you move into this new season, allow yourself to rest. Stop sacrificing your peace for the sake of others. Give yourself permission to step back, to pause, and to replenish your body, mind, and spirit. Trust that when you take the time to rest, you are honoring God's design for your life. He will provide the strength you need to continue on your journey, and in the meantime, He will renew your soul. Rest is a gift from God, chosen one. Don't reject it. Embrace it. Let it restore you, align you, and empower you to move forward in the fullness of the divine purpose that awaits you. Chosen one, the weight of overfunctioning is a burden many carry without even realizing it. For years, you've been running on a treadmill of constant activity, believing that your worth and value are determined by your productivity and the number of things you can do for others. You've poured yourself into your work relationships and commitments, thinking that the more you give, the more valuable you become. But in this cycle of overfunctioning, you have neglected something essential: your own well-being, peace, and spiritual health. Overfunctioning is a subtle and often hidden danger. It doesn't always look like what you might expect. It isn't always marked by outward exhaustion or burnout at first. Instead, it often appears as a quiet, insidious pattern of constantly striving, always doing, always serving, and never fully resting. Overfunctioning is the tendency to overextend yourself, to take on more than you should, and to do things for others that they can and should be doing for themselves. It is an unspoken belief that the more you do for others, the more love and acceptance you will receive. It's a mentality that says, I must always be helpful, always be available, always be giving. Even if it means sacrificing your own emotional, spiritual, and physical health. At first glance, overfunctioning might appear virtuous. After all, isn't helping others and being selfless something that we are encouraged to do? It's true that God calls us to serve others, to love our neighbors as ourselves, and to use our gifts to bless those around us. But the problem arises when we start to believe that we must constantly be giving without ever taking the time to receive. When we place the needs of others above our own well-being to the point of exhaustion, we step into the realm of overfunctioning. Overfunctioning becomes a form of self-neglect. It strips us of our energy, our time, and our peace. Instead of working from a place of wholeness and restoration, we begin to operate from a place of depletion. We give and give until there's nothing left, not realizing that this is not God's plan for us. God calls us to serve others, yes, but He does not call us to do so at the expense of our own well-being. Serving from a place of depletion leads to emotional and spiritual starvation. Eventually, we become empty, unable to pour into others because we haven't allowed ourselves to be refilled. Overfunctioning often leads to burnout, isolation, and an inability to truly connect with our divine purpose. One of the most dangerous aspects of overfunctioning is that it often goes unnoticed by others. You may think that the people around you appreciate your constant giving, your endless availability, and your ability to take on more than your fair share. But what they may not realize is the toll it is taking on you. You may wear a mask of strength, appearing like you have everything under control, while internally you are unraveling. The more you give, the more people come to expect it, and the more you find yourself caught in a cycle of trying to meet everyone else's needs while neglecting your own. Over time, this cycle chips away at your inner peace and joy. You become a shell of who you are meant to be, constantly running on empty and losing sight of the divine strength and purpose that should be fueling your journey. Overfunctioning is also dangerous because it stems from a place of fear and insecurity. It is often rooted in a deep desire to please others, to earn love, or to prove that you are worthy. The need for external validation can drive us to overextend ourselves, thinking that our value is based on what we can do for others. But God's love for you is not dependent on your ability to perform, to give, or to meet every need that arises. His love is unconditional. He does not call you to serve endlessly out of a sense of obligation or fear. He calls you to serve out of a place of love, joy, and alignment with His purpose. When you overfunction, you are not living in alignment with the peace and grace that God desires for you. Instead, you are operating from a place of self-doubt and fear, believing that your worth is tied to your ability to constantly give and perform. This is not how God designed you to live. The truth is, overfunctioning is a form of spiritual disconnection. When we overfunction, we disconnect from the source of our strength, which is God. We begin to rely on our own strength, our own abilities, and our own efforts to meet the needs of others, rather than trusting God to work through us and to provide the strength and resources we need. We forget that God is the one who gives us the strength to serve, to love, and to fulfill our purpose. But when we neglect to rest, when we overextend ourselves, we stop relying on God and start relying on our own limited resources. And that is when we begin to burn out. In the Bible, we see examples of people who struggled with the temptation to overfunction. One such example is Martha, the sister of Mary and Lazarus. In the Gospel of Luke, we see Martha overwhelmed with the task of serving Jesus and preparing a meal while her sister Mary sat at Jesus' feet listening to him. Martha, frustrated and exhausted, asked Jesus to tell Mary to help her, but Jesus responded saying, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her." Luke 10:41-42. In this story, Martha was overfunctioning, busy serving, trying to meet the demands of her guests, while Mary chose to rest and receive from Jesus. Jesus was not condemning Martha's desire to serve, but he was gently reminding her that there is a time to serve and a time to rest. Martha's overfunctioning was a sign of her anxiety, her fear of not being enough, and her desire to meet the expectations placed upon her. But in the end, it was Mary who chose what was truly important, to sit in the presence of Jesus and allow herself to be filled. Jesus was teaching Martha and us that our worth does not come from how much we do for others, but from being present with Him and allowing Him to fill us first. Chosen one, you are called to live a life of balance. Yes, God has given you a heart to serve, to love, and to give, but He also calls you to recognize your limits, to practice discernment, and to take the time to rest and be refilled. You are not meant to function from a place of depletion. You are meant to live in the overflow of God's love and grace. When you overfunction, you are running on empty, and that is not the life God has planned for you. He desires you to serve from a place of fullness, from a place where you are aligned with His purpose and strength. It is time to recognize the hidden danger of overfunctioning in your life. God does not want you to sacrifice your well-being, peace, or spiritual health for the sake of serving others. He has called you to live a life of rest, balance, and alignment with His divine plan. It's time to stop overextending yourself and to start living in the fullness of His grace. You are not defined by what you do for others, but by your connection to Him, and it is from that connection that you will find the strength and peace to serve in the way He has called you to. Rest is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Trust in God's plan for your life. Take time to rest and allow yourself to be refilled. In doing so, you will find that the love and service you offer others will come from a place of abundance, not exhaustion. Chosen one, today, you are being called to step out of survival mode and into a life of alignment, peace, and fullness. This message is not about condemnation, nor is it about pointing out your failures. It is a divine invitation, a call to healing, restoration, and freedom. God sees the burdens you've been carrying, and He is stepping in not to judge you, but to offer you a path to release restoration and divine peace. God's promise is clear. He will restore your joy, your peace, and your strength if you choose to let go of the burdens that have been weighing you down. This restoration is not about returning to the past, but about moving forward into a life where you are fully aligned with His purpose for you. You are not meant to live in constant exhaustion or emotional depletion. You're meant to walk in the fullness of the life He has prepared for you. Today, God is inviting you to let go of the false responsibility you've been carrying, the weight of trying to be everything to everyone and ignoring your own needs. Embrace the peace that comes from trusting in God's plan for your life. This moment of divine interruption is His mercy protecting you from further harm and guiding you toward a place of healing. God is not disappointed in you. He is protecting the precious gifts He has placed inside you, and He is inviting you to trust Him with your journey.